Ron Vitiello, it is great to see you in person, sir.
It's good to be here.
Welcome. Yeah, of course. Welcome to the show. You've been on with us a number of times, and I would say, of all the issues that President Trump ran on, the border has always been the signature issue. From the first term to this term, it's the thing that most people elected him to do. And boy, you guys have done it in record time.
Yes, it's very impressive. You know, I've been around this work for about 40 years, and I myself am impressed by how quickly, when the president said, here's the new policy, we're going to do these 4 or 5 things, we're going to give the front line the tools that they need to succeed. I was even impressed by how quickly the front line got it done. So we are down to numbers at the border that I've never seen in my entire career.
And just so we're clear, it was always a matter of will, not a matter of could.
It was. No laws have changed as it relates to who can come and go in across that border, what kinds of things can come and go across that border. Congress did not have to act for the president to secure the border. He needed to step up. President Trump has stepped up and said, I want my leadership to be empowered. I want the front line to have the tools that they need. So with the leadership of Kristi Noem, the tools in the hands of the front lines that say, we're not going to release people anymore. We're going to treat these vicious cartels like terrorists that they are. And we're going to have the resources with the Department of Defense, the Department of State, the Department of Justice. We're going to bring all those resources together to help the front line and support the work that they do. And the results are evident. No releases in the last 3 months across. Nobody came into the border illegally by gaming the asylum system and was allowed in under the in the last 90 days. Yeah, because you had thousands of people a day that were being released by the front line during the entirety of the 4 years of Joe Biden. And so that nonsense is over. And then I can't stress enough the work that the State Department has done. The Department of Defense, 10,000 troops on the front line, side by side with our Border Patrol agents, fortifying the wall, giving them better access, physical access to the border, helping us monitor the sensors, and just making the border more secure. And then, again, that policy that says you cannot game the system and be released, that's over. And so that's kept a lot of people at home. And then we've rescued people it gives the agents more time to do all the things that they have to do, rescuing people that are in distress, rescuing victims of human trafficking, and stopping the fentanyl and the other dangerous drugs that continue to be smuggled into the U.S.
That is the thing, the most chilling thing. I remember Ted Cruz talking about the children that he saw trafficked across the border. You know, it's horrifying, actually. I mean, beyond the drugs and the crime, which is all real and awful, the human trafficking, the human toll this has taken that agents on the border see and have been warning, and to no avail until President Trump came to office. It's been heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, they suffered. Imagine the front line. You're the person that people look to protect them.
And by the way, may I just interject and say, lots of missing kids still today because of that.
Yeah, a lot. There have been a number of them found, but still a ways to go in that category as well. But yeah, just imagine coming to work as a frontline officer every day and seeing these kids and knowing that if you had more time and opportunity to figure out exactly what their situation is instead of just putting them into the system, or worse, releasing them with people you may or may not be able to prove that's their family. And so, again, that nonsense is over. More children are being protected because the border is in a safer condition, and the front line has the capability to find out all the things that are going on, just not what they have to deal with.
I always like to ask the kind of rhetorical question, why? Why do you suppose, just asking your opinion, if it's this easily done when aggressive tactics are used and resources are poured into it, why was that not being done in the previous administration? Why do you think this was allowed to happen?
I think there's a number of reasons, and I think the president has been successful in taking the mask off these folks. We've looked behind the curtain, right? He's asked for us not to have birthright citizenship as an enticement to people who come into the country illegally, and the left has lost their mind. The Democrats have lost their minds over it. He's also said that they shouldn't be counted in the census. Why is that? Because we're apportioning more seats in Congress to states like California that encourage illegal migration and protect illegal migrants who are also criminals. And so that is the motivation for these folks. Look what they're doing with this guy, Kilmar Abrego. They don't want him deported. This is a guy who was a verified gang member. He has been accused of beating his own spouse, in the country illegally as a part of an MS-13 gang, human trafficking people through Tennessee. It's on video. And the Democrats fly down to El Salvador to shake his hand and stand behind him. And you've got, half of the city of Baltimore standing up and trying to make sure that he doesn't get deported. That's what the left is doing. It's because it's an advantage to them in the electorate.
And he's been called Maryland man. We've been laughing about that for months because they've tried, the left, the media has tried to portray him as some sort of suburban dad. He steps up to the microphone at this rally to support him, and he doesn't speak a lick of English. The Maryland man,
yeah,
right?
If that's what a Maryland man is, we don't need any more of those in the United States.
Where does it go from here? Because I think a lot of people wonder to themselves, we're so grateful that President Trump and your work and border agents have been doing this work. How do we ensure it continues, or can you really? I guess elections matter, is the point.
Absolutely. Yeah, the policy has to line up with the way the resources are laid down. So the president gave us a number of policies that allow the front line to succeed. Now it's the job of the government, and with Congress's help, the One Big Beautiful Bill, as it's called, gives CBP an infusion of resources to fix some of the inherent infrastructure that needed to be recapitalized. Lots of money by the taxpayer for wall and infrastructure that supports the wall. 8,000 new frontline in CBP, 8,000 new frontline in ICE. So using that level of resources to sustain what's being done now by policy and operations, and expanding and increasing that capability so that we can sustain it over the long term. That's the work, as we go into the second half of this term, to make sure that we can deliver on the promises of the resource investment and sustain what we're doing on the physical border, as well as what's going on in the interior.
And out of curiosity, on that physical wall, I forget the length of miles that the whole border is, but where does that wall stand in terms of its construction?
Depending on how you count it, it's about 1,200 miles on the southwest border. Before Trump won, there's about 700 miles of wall in different configurations. The bill, the reconciliation bill, allows for about another 700 miles of barrier. Some of that's going to be in the river, those buoys that Texas successfully used during the crisis under Biden, and then a lot of wall on the land border as well.
A lot of it's unpassable. Is that accurate?
There's quite a few areas where it's really geographically tough for people to cross and walk through. It's not impossible, but it's not the place you'd go first. And so we're going to shore up all the places where the wall makes a difference. It's important for people to know how impactful the wall is on the day-to-day operations of the agents. All wall comes with a road that parallels the border, right? So that's quick access from one spot to the other, makes the agent's time on task more efficient. And then it's also an anchor for technology. So you know when someone's approaching the wall, you know when someone's on the wall, and then you can do something about it as soon as they try to enter the United States. So it's an anchor for that whole operation, including the tech that's going to be laid within it to make those agents more productive on their day-to-day tasks.
One of the most infuriating moments I remember during the Biden administration, and there were many, was when he and that administration actually challenged in court the idea that you would try to stop people from crossing the river. Right? Am I remembering that correctly? They actually stopped Border Patrol from trying to stop people from crossing in the river.
They did all kinds of nonsense. Arizona put up temporary barriers to stem the flow in their area. The federal government sued the state to take them down. They did the same thing to Texas. The Texas resources had certain areas of the border under control, and our guys were forced to go over there the federal government sued them to take those resources back off the board. And so, again, that nonsense is over. We now have partnerships in places like Florida and Texas and Missouri and a number of other states that are helping with physical individuals, sending National Guard, not just in the interior, but also at the border as well. And then we're not fighting with any of the border states about having barriers that work, because Congress has come in and backstopped the president's policies by giving us the resources to lay down about another 700 miles of wall.
It's bananas that was ever a debate. So today, morale of the men and women who do this work on the border. I know during the last 4 years it was low. We talked with some agents and people who head up the departments down there. They were just almost despondent. I can't imagine waking every day when you know that your bosses in Washington don't have your back. Where are they today now that they know that President Trump has their back?
So this workforce is something I'm very familiar with. Their families and they deserve way better than they got under the Biden administration. And so now you can see the morale is way up. They have got the tools they need to succeed. That's what they want to do. They want to protect us. They want to patrol the border. They don't want to sit behind a desk taking biographical information and handing out sandwiches and baby formula, et cetera. And so that nonsense is over. They're out there doing their job. And so more of them are going to stay, because you can leave after you've got your 20 in. So more of them are staying. And then more people are signing up now to be in the Border Patrol. We've doubled the online application number in the last 7 months.
Much like the Defense Department, so you're seeing an interest in the job.
Absolutely right, absolutely right. And then we're going to incentivize those that want to come and those that are here. And so that's also a very big boost to morale. And they know that the Secretary, the President have their back. They want them to succeed. They've given them those tools, and over time we're going to sustain that activity, and they know that the President Trump has their back.
And final question, in terms of people trying to get into the country, there was a steady stream, caravans, we were hearing reports of often paid-for caravans of people coming to the border. Where does that stand now?
Yeah, let me give you a simple example. During the time of the Biden administration, about 5,700 people were encountered by CBP trying to cross the border. During that 4-year, in 24 hours, 5,700 people trying to enter the country between the ports of entry. That was the Border Patrol encounter numbers for the entirety of the Biden administration. Right now, the 7-day average is about 150. So we went from well over almost 6,000 to 150. Because, it's great. It shows you if you give the front line what they need, you get the policy right. People will stay home, and you'll give us an opportunity to succeed on the physical border, and that's what's happening today.
And by the way, it also helps you guys probably to know that law enforcement here in the United States is letting people know if you're captured, you will be deported. That's probably helpful in the messaging as well, yes?
That's right. In the places like Florida and Texas, where ICE has these 287G partners, when they find somebody in the country illegally who's committed another crime, when that person is done with their local adjudication, it's a direct referral to ICE. That's going to be a real help in those locations. And then where we don't have that facility in sanctuary jurisdictions, if you will, we're just going to do what we need to do. ICE is going to do what they need to do.
Do those agencies work together, ICE, CPB?
They
have close
very
relations?
Strong partner. We are there in most times, not really right now, but in most times we give them more detainees than any other activity that's done in government, right? So when we find somebody on the border that needs to be deported, they go to ICE for custody after their stay with the Justice Department. And so, there's a tight partnership there, always has been.
I have to say, 7 months in, your story and the story of the border might be, there's a lot to crow about in this administration, but yours might be the biggest.
Yeah, it's good to do what we do at CBP right now.
Congratulations, sir. Thanks for your service to the country.
Thank you.